listen, folks, you're going to hear some stories, and most of you won't even know who we're talking about. Welcome to the show, the Kamikaze, the one and only, I think, one of the best there ever has been, both as a human and a bullfighter, Rob Smets. Rob, welcome to the show.
Tommy Joe, thank you very much. Kendra, thanks for having me. And we all go way back.
We do.
All the way
We,
back.
all the way back. Yep.
Well, Kendra, kick us off. There's a few highlights from Rodeo this week, and we know you are the deliverer of the highlights of the week. So why
There's
don't you
just
do that before we get
okay.
started?
We have so much to talk about, the three of us. I can hardly wait. But before we do, Saturday night was the end of the 2025 Canadian finals, and we cannot start an episode of anything without mentioning what Scott Ginther did in steer wrestling. Lights out, five for five, won every go round. Hello, batted 1,000, won the average, won his fifth Canadian title. That was insane. And shout out to the steer wrestling horse of the year, Eddie Tanner Milan owns him, and Bailey Milan hazed. That was extraordinary. Obviously, it's a record. It can never be beaten. It may be matched someday, but it would. I mean, that's insane. In anywhere you go, and then Zeke Thurston winning his sixth straight Canadian title was, super cool. 91 and a half, I think he was on his last one. Um, you know, and then here we head to Vegas. He's the guy that Dan Mortensen and Casey Tibbs, with their six gold buckles in the PRCA, you know, if
Watch
those
out.
guys, if they get outdone, there's a great chance it's going to be by Zeke Thurston. So amazing. And one last thing I have to mention is that after three runner-up reserve titles up in Canada, Kyle Lucas got it done, and Smoking Joe's son, won his first Canadian tie-down title. Super cool. Interviewed by his sister Katie. It was just very touching. And I thought, I don't know if you see it, if Joe's wife is Shiona, but just imagine she was just sobbing up there for her little baby boy, and her little girl out there interviewing him. It was really special because it was pretty tight, and you just kind of a cliffhanger to the end, but neat for their family. And of course, Kyle's going to his first NFR this year, so that was, big congrats to everybody up in Canada. They put on quite a show, and then I just saw today that there are some buys, like the top five team ruppers, for example, get buys into the, was it, they call it the Rocky Mountain Cup. That's for the team ruppers. Instead of part of the Calgary Stampede, the team ruppers have their own separate,
Their own team open over there.
thing in August. But the top five in Canada get a buy to that. So that, I mean, that's a pretty huge perk. Anyway, let's go on with the man here, Rob Smets. And it's like, you can't make old friends and all that. Rob Smets, graduate of Alma High School in Salinas, California. Um, so like my two earliest memories of Rob Smets, we were children, but I know that I borrowed a truck and trailer. I think it was from Andy Meese. And of course I panicked because I locked the keys in it. And it was some kind of wild something to get up and through that camper and rescue. But Rob Smets was the guy who found a crack in the action somewhere and saved the day when I was petrified. And then another fun memory was one year at the Woodside Junior Rodeo on the 4th of July. Our house had been robbed the day before. And so my little brother Wade is roping in the calf roping in tennis shoes. He wins the calf roping, and then some, whatever you want to call
Parent.
it, there was a protest by some chicken liver parents or something saying after the fact, well, he should be disqualified because he didn't have boots. Well, his boots got stolen the day before. But who jumped in like a matador? Rob Smets, who also was just a kid, but he stood up for Wade, and by golly, Wade has that buckle somewhere. But I mean,
Yeah.
stepped up for people when he didn't have to. And so to me, that Rob Smets made a career and a life of rescuing people comes as like zero surprise because the saves, he was born with the saves. And I, in fact, was there the day that Rob Smets, District 4 High School Rodeo at Bellotto Park in Hollister, California, Frank, was his name Graves?
Frank Gomes.
Gomes. I'm saying Graves.
Frank
That's the
Gomes.
team member. Frank Gomes was supposed to fight Bull so that day. And tell us what happened, because I was there and you stepped in.
Well, what happened was Frank had started going to bigger Dan Russell events, some of those CCA rodeos, and Donnie Landis was there by himself. And I was like, and actually that fall before, I got on a bull and I was hollering at Frank and Donnie, and I was saying, get up there, hit him on the head. And I said, you think it's so easy? Get your butt off the fence and show us how. And not that I did anything fantastic, but I stepped out, and Bellotto Park is a cow pasture. There's no running to the fences. So once you step out there and you get after things, you better do something. And got around a couple anyway. It was the wildest game of tag I had ever played. And and I mean, I lived as a kid overseas in Australia and stuff. I played rugby, I played cricket. I boxed. So contact sports, I loved them. And the bullfighting. Then that next year, Frank Gomes went to go work something else. Donnie was there by himself, and I started working on high school rodeos, and it just took off from there. Donnie Landis's dad used to fight bulls way back in the day, and with Slim Pickens and in that era. And so his dad was a truck driver, and his dad would come through there and say, you need to do this and you need to do that. And he schooled on me and Donnie. And we worked our junior and senior year there. And then that September, after we had graduated, Jack Roddy gave us a shot at the San Jose Firefighters Rodeo. And we fought bulls with Chuck Henson and Jerry Mariluch. Each one of us got to work a performance with them, and we got approved for our PRCA cards.
Oh,
And I bought my card in January of 1978.
Now,
When
we
you were
probably
how
should
old?
start this for all of our viewers. We're talking to Rob Smets, who is, I think I have this right, so Rob will correct me, and so will Kendra. 6 times NFR,
Yep.
NFR, 4 times alternate. And I can't remember how many times, was it 8
9.
times?
Nine at the PBR, and then I won the world 5 times and qualified 17 times in the Wrangler bullfights.
Yeah, in the top 6 in the world,
Right.
17 times.
Yeah.
So this guy is, so we're talking to and one of the innovators, of course, I think Skipper, but
Skipper and Miles, and what they took it from Cotton Rosser's event that 1977, we got our card signed for in September 1977. Donnie Landis, myself, Richard Caton, and my buddy Nev Devine, we sneak into the Cow Palace on the final night of the Cow Palace. Donnie Gay rides Oscar for 97 points, and Wick Peth won the very first bullfighting contest. Cotton Rosser put it on. And I was bumping my buddies. I was watching this deal, and I'm like, I'm coming here next year. I got to be in this, and I had got my card signed for the month before, so I knew I was going to have a card and have a chance. And I worked for Bob Cook and Cotton Rosser that year, and Cotton got me in the bullfight, and it was, it was pretty darn cool. I won the first round, and Bob Donaldson won the second round, and then I
a
ended
lot of
up
the
winning.
styles, though, so I grew up with George Doak, Chuck Henson, Cajun Kid. I literally grew up with those
Right.
guys. Different type of bullfighters. George Doak just laid his arm over the top of the bull and took Hookins.
Yeah, but he was so big and strong, George.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It was different, but
yeah.
Rob, Miles, and what I call the new era of face off. Now this is
Right.
Tommy Joe's version, where you stood, looked at a bull, you threw a fake, and then then the step throughs. Miles had a lot of that stuff naturally. Your speed, same way, but you guys really, really everything that everybody knows about freestyle bullfighting and protection today, you guys really coined it. Fair?
Well, we were blessed. Like Wick showed me how to hop. Skipper, we were in Omaha, Nebraska, in the dressing room, and I got to share this at the PRCA Hall of Fame because Skipper got inducted this year, and I got to step up there with Skipper and speak a little bit. And I said, I just want everybody to realize how important Skipper Voss was to our sport because, without a doubt, I could still to this day, Wick Peth is the king. That's it. But Skipper Voss was an artist. Skipper Voss was the one that threw the fake, did the step through, and he taught me how to do the step through on a chair in the dressing room in Omaha, Nebraska. So after the bareback ride, he shows me how to do this. And then from the bareback ride until the barrel race, I'm on this chair, stepping, getting my steps down. I go out. Servy's got all those big Sloan Williams bulls and brindles that are 1,600 pounds with horns as long as your arms and, and smoking guns. And I stepped through this son of a gun and win the round. And the first man at the gate was Skipper Voss to say, great job, man. Skipper Voss is in the contest competing against me. He's not there watching it. He's competing against me, and he's the first one to slap me on the back and say, what a great job, man. You did it just like it's supposed to be done. And I'll never forget that.
It was 1972, the first time I ever performed with my dad. I was 3, and Wick Peth and my dad were at the Phoenix Rodeo of Rodeos. And they take me out in the barrel, and Dad says, Wick Peth's going to lift you out of the barrel. Well, I had watched Wick do handstands. He'd start with the handstand on the fence.
Right.
And he was in the dressing room, and I mean, looked like Terminator, like a small version of Terminator. I mean, as ripped a human I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, he goes out there to get me. And all I remember, because my first picture, I'm running out of the arena and I'm crying. It's because Wick grabbed my wrists so hard, right?
Right.
Out of adrenaline that I thought he broke my wrist. And of course, I'm a little fat kid. I might be 16 inches tall, just as round, and I'm running out of the arena crying. Dad's telling me to knock it off. But that's my point is Wick was so incredibly, I think, superhuman strong.
And to make people aware of this now, you said 1972, so he's already 40 plus.
Correct.
By that time, at least 41. I'm going to say closer to 44, 45. Yep. And Wick, he was all grit, all game. And so he helped me. The best thing that ever happened to me when I came in, I learned a little from Wick. He taught me the hop. Skipper taught me the step through. And I was blessed to get to go work for Jim Shoulders and me and Jimmy Anderson. Jungle Jimmy was as good a partner as I could have ever got stuck with. The first time Miles Hare and I worked fighting bulls together in Monroe, Louisiana was a year after I had won the event at the Cow Palace. In 1979, we were at Monroe, Louisiana, and we're going through there. And, we were both, I was 1979, so I'm 20 years old. Miles is 24. And we're going through there and we're kind of bouncing off each other and we're digging in because we're both used to being the guy that sells it. And 3 bulls into it, Miles looks over at me and he goes, what the hell's the matter with you? And I said, well, you're the great Miles Hare. Do something. And boy, here we go. We're nose to nose right in the arena. I mean, and the Shoulders used to start the rodeo with the bull riding and end the rodeo with the bull riding. And we're nose to nose in the arena and John Taylor's in the barrel. And Shoulders rides up to John Taylor and he goes, what the hell's going on up there? And he goes, you got 2 young bulls and too small a pasture. So Shoulders comes riding up there and he rides right between us with his horse. And he goes, boys, you don't have to fight with each other. We've got plenty of them. And he looked at his flank man and they turned us one out. They bucked one. They turned another one out. But so we get done with the first section and Miles and I go back to that little dressing room in Monroe and we're sitting about this far apart from each other and we stare at each other for 2 hours. We don't say a word to each other. We don't blink. We don't do nothing. John Taylor sends Dottie in to get Snort because he doesn't want any part of being in that dressing room. you know, and so we go from there to 19, and then we get to the 1981, the Wrangler Bullfights start. They go to Jim Sutton, David Allen, Skipper Voss, Jim and Julie Sutton. They all get together and they create the Wrangler Bullfight program. And so the first contest they have was up there in Rapid City. And then the first full year of a contest for a world champion was 1981. And the first contest was Odessa, Texas. I won Odessa in 81. We go through the year. Miles wins the world. I win second. The next year, I go in the lead for the world, and I let it get away from me. Skipper wins the world. Miles wins second. I win third. 1983, we're in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and Miles has won the first 3 rounds, and I've won second 3 rounds in a row. And I look over at him, and I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going home. And Miles said, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm going home. I'm tired of winning second to you. My dad was a heavy equipment operator. My Italian mother was always, come home, you can get a good job, be in the union, and you'll never have to worry about anything, da, 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 da. And I was like, you know what? I'm going home. I'm done. And Miles goes, oh, crap. He goes, quit trying all the crazy shit, pardon my French, and get back to the fundamentals. And I went out and I won the last round at Fort Smith. I won the next 5 bullfights in a row, and then won Oklahoma City in 83. So we went from being nose to nose to I owe Miles hair because he saved my career. And then to this day, in another month, we're going to Montgomery, Alabama to cross Dunn's place, and we're putting on bullfighting schools together. And we also, skipping way far ahead, but we end up tied for the world championship dollar for dollar, penny for penny in 1988. And I looked at Miles and I said, I can't think of a better guy to have to split the world with. And we looked over at him and said, make another buckle, we're done.
I remember Miles coming to Dad's house. Dad really, him and Miles were pretty darn close.
They were pretty tight, yep.
And I remember Miles Young coming to the house. I think I might have even told this story. And we go out to the pasture for something. And Dad and I walk through the gate, and Miles, flat-footed, jumps the fence.
Yeah.
And Dad looks at him. He's like, what are you doing? He goes, it's training. And every time I ever went anywhere as a kid with Miles and there was a fence, I'm not exaggerating, he never went through the gate.
Yeah.
He jumped it. And the last little story, we're at Fort Worth, and I don't know that I'm saying this right, but I was in the dressing room, and I believe Miles signed a contract to jump so many bulls. Now I don't know that I'm right.
And I think that was before I got there, but that was in his contract with Bob Watt.
It was in his contract, and there was 3 perfs left, and Neil walks by, and I can't remember this black bull, the name, but all I know in the dressing room, because I'm a kid, is Dad says to Miles, don't do it. Don't do it. High-headed, cut you off. And I just remember Dad going, don't do it. And I remember that perf. He doesn't jump him off the barrel. This is off the ground. Bull comes around the line. He jumps and gets absolutely smoked. Right. And Miles had to be 6.5 feet off the ground. But this big black Bremer jumped, lunged in the air, had a big rat, caught him, jerked him down on his head. But that's the kind of, those are the things that I'll never forget, right? Ever. Dad going, don't do it, Miles. Miles going, gotcha, cocky. And,
we were at James Pierce's original Wrangler bullfighter reunion last year at Fort Worth, and they sat there and said, and don't get me wrong, no disrespect, but they said the two best bull jumpers off the ground that they'd ever seen was Donnie and Ronnie Sparks. And I stuck my hand in the air and I said, whoa, wait a minute. I said, the guy's not here to defend that argument, but I'm here to defend it. And I said, the 2 best guys that ever jumped bulls off the ground are Ronnie Sparks and Miles Hare. And I said, and I never really saw Donnie jump many off the ground. I've seen Ronnie do it. Or no, I meant Donnie and Miles, not Ronnie. And so,
Now, do you see? Do
oh,
you
add
see?
effects for using hand gestures.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
getting,
Okay. Well,
that
yeah.
that's the Italian in me. I got to talk with my hands.
I'm with you on that. And by the way, Oak grew up in South Dakota, but moved to Gordon, Nebraska in 8th grade and went to high school there, home of Miles Hare.
Right? Yes, ma'am.
And he's a legend around there. And every single buddy says he would beat you in every single rodeo event.
Yeah.
As a kid,
Oh,
he was like,
Miles won second in the nation in the boys all around in high school. He
well,
rode bareback
couch
horses,
roping,
rope
bareback
calves, team
riding.
rope. It didn't matter.
Yes, all of it.
Yeah.
They said he was some kind of cowboy, like, you know, if he wanted to, he was something special.
I will be bold enough to speak for my friend right here and tell you that Miles Hare will forget more about fighting bulls than most guys will ever know.
That's true. Now, quick question. So, getting back off of Miles and back on you. In some of my research, so this could just be internet junk, but
This
I've got
could get us in trouble.
no. I left all that stuff out.
Okay.
Is it true that as a child you were in Thailand and Singapore and Puerto Rico?
My dad did, like I said, my dad did heavy construction work. We lived in Thailand for 3 years, 1966 to 1969 during the Vietnam War. He built the Utapao Air Force Base, which is where the B-52 bombers came in, loaded up, and went back and forth to Vietnam. We were in Singapore for about 8 months. Then we went to Puerto Rico, and he built oil field pads for Fluor. And then he went to New Guinea. We lived in Brisbane, Australia then, and Dad worked up in New Guinea on the copper mines for Bechtel. And then he went to work for Guy F. Atkinson and built the breakwater out in front of the Sydney airport. And we came home the end of my 8th grade year.
But home is California the whole time.
Home was California. That was where I was from. Sat right there out of San Jose. And my dream was to play center field for the Giants. Willie Mays was my hero. I mean, from the time I was a kid, I threw the baseball up on the roof of the house, worked on the basket catch. That was all I wanted to do. But like I said, I got on a couple cabs right before we left Australia. We got back home. We started talking. I met some boys, and we start talking about going to some junior rodeos and getting on and the steer riding and that. And so I'm starting there and learning to swing a rope. And then I want to play cowboy. And then, as I'm doing that, and then end of my sophomore year, I step around my first bull, and it's set the mitt down. I'm done. This is what I want to do. This is just too fun.
Oh gosh, who first called you Kamikaze Kid?
I don't remember who was the first one to call me. Kirk Allman, though, called me Iron Man when we were all the way back in high school. Kirk Allman called me the Iron Man. And then Kamikaze Kid coming about because everybody kept saying, "You act like a kamikaze. Do you have a death wish?" And I said, "I don't do anything I don't think I can do. I just, I back off from that barrel, and it's been awful good to me, and it's sure got me some awful good rodeos by jumping those bulls over the barrel." And with Jungle Jimmy, if Jungle Jimmy waved his hand to me to come on, I never ever hesitated.
Well, I was going to say this about Jimmy, so I don't want to just because Kendra, sorry, but this is right down my alley, right? So this is stuff I like because I grew up in it. But Jimmy Anderson may not have had the same speed and stuff as other guys, but there was nobody that had the bull savvy. Like Jimmy was the guy, even when he couldn't run like he ran when he was a kid, was always in the right spot. And people would say something. I said, he takes 2 steps to your 5. Like his savvy, his ability to read bulls, and that's why when he raised his hand,
yep.
he knew he had the bull and would bring him into the barrel, so you would clear him, right?
Right.
Fair?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Yep. No, and Jimmy, if the good Lord was to come and tell, there's two guys right now. If the good Lord was to tell me, well, there's more than two, but the first two of my choice would be, you got to go down to hell and you got to bring somebody out. First would be Jimmy Anderson, and I'm coming back with whoever we go. And the second would be Miles Hare. Those two guys are as close to brothers without being the same blood as I could ever want to have. And then I mean, without a doubt, the guys I've been blessed to work with: Joe Bumgardner, Frank Newsom, you know, some rock star, and just a whole lot of them. Steve Mowry, Skipper Voss, Wick Peth. I was blessed to get to come in at the tail end of their careers, and then to get to see a whole bunch of other careers with Greg Roomer, the Sparkses, Mike Matt, Lloyd Ketchum. The Wrangler Bullfights. It was fun to be in, and you had some guys that you better tie your cleats on and mean business, or they'll send you to the house without a check.
Good stuff.
Did the Wrangler Bullfights end in like 2000-ish?
2000 was the last year at the NFR. Yes.
Was there, I mean, I don't know if it's political to ask or whatever. Was there a reason? Like, it seemed
Well,
really popular.
what happened was the offer became to become the Wrangler Bullfight or the Wrangler NFR. And as any sponsor has, they have X number of dollars per sport. And so the opportunity for the Wrangler, for it to become the Wrangler NFR for all 10 performances, what Wrangler was able to get for it for the dollar was a better opportunity than with the Bullfights.
That was the end of the Bullfights when
And
it
that was
became.
the end. And that was the end of the Bullfights. Was in 2000.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that was the last year they crowned a world champion.
I have a question with stepping in and taking a bullet for others is part of the job description on the cowboy protection side, And
Right.
so I was wondering if that, how much of that was your instinctive nature, and then, or was there a time when you had to like overcome, like most people would consider it common sense or whatever, like you don't step into harm's way, but that's what you had to do. Like, was that natural for you, or did you have to work
And
at
I
it?
want to say yes, because of, like I said, the rugby, the boxing, the football, that contact, and boxing especially, you got to get knocked down. Well, the only way to win this is to get back up. And my dad told me something a long time ago as a kid: if you say can't's not in the dictionary. We got to be able to do it. And so getting up, and like I said, with the guys that I was around, Jimmy Anderson, as tough as nails, Miles Hare, Skipper Voss, Wick Peth, I remember the first day I get ready to work the bull riding with Wick Peth. We're in St. Paul, Oregon. And I'm standing about this distance away, and I'm bouncing around, and my breast's getting shorter and shorter. And Wick walks over and sticks his finger in my chest, and he goes, "Son, you got to breathe." Just as cool as could be. And then he was good to me. At first it was a little tough being around him, but you were talking to him about doing handstands on the panels and stuff before he went into the arena. I remember being in Lewiston, Idaho, right when they first went down to the arena that they're at now. And Wick walks over to this Powder River panel, and he's getting ready to do a handstand. And there's a kid there that's probably 22, 23 years old, long-haired kid. And he looks over, and Wick goes, "Excuse me." And the kid kind of gives him a dirty look, and Wick goes into that handstand like that. And the next thing I see is Wick gets a hold of this horse like Bruce Ford starting one out, gets a hold of his neck like this with a scissor hold. And he's got him around the neck, and he's got a hold of the panels, and this guy's trying to get away. And like you said, Wick's as strong as a bull. He don't get away until Wick hits the ground, and it's like this. And he's like, "You want some?" I will never forget that, and that guy he wanted away from that crazy old man.
The other day we had Rory Lemmel came on to talk about Sioux Falls, which is basically the grand finale of the regular season now. So
Right.
back when we're kids, the Cow Palace is the playoffs for the NFR. The last night of the Cow Palace, everybody knows who's in, who's out, or whatever.
Yep.
Well, what people won't remember, but was part of our youth, was like the buck and ball was a big deal.
Gary LeFew's buck and ball and the cowboy boxing matches.
The cowboy boxing matches was cool as heck. Cowboys getting up and boxing. Like,
Yep.
it was so fun.
The Cowboys got up. Some of the Cowboys that had a chip on their shoulder with each other fought there. I can remember the one year being there that the Royal Canadian Mounties
Yes.
were there doing, and some of the Mounties boxed with Cowboys, and those Mounties were in pretty good shape. They're, you got to remember they're in a military service. They're about getting exercised every day and all that. And those Mounties were pretty scrappy. And yeah, I got to go fight there. One year I got in a fight outside with a guy named Randy Santos that was from down around my part of the country. And as we got up and I started walking toward the truck, and somebody ran outside and hollered, "Smets, LeFew's hollering for you. You're the next fight inside." And so then I got to go in and go box 3 rounds. It was fun.
Oh my God. I would love to know the different skill set between a cowboy protection bullfighter and a winner in the Wrangler bullfights. What are the two? It's different.
I really feel that the bullfights help a guy on your cowboy protection because I think that it slows everything down. And I mean, there's a couple guys that never worked. Joe Baumgartner. Joe Baumgartner never competed in the bullfights, and Joe Baumgartner can tie cleats on with anybody that ever tied them on, and can be in there, be smooth, be slow, But I think for like me and Miles and so many of us, by learning how to step, throw the fake, step in the hole, and slow things down in the bullfights, it sure helped with when you shot the gap, feeling that you were in control because you saw things coming before it ever got there, much like what you were talking with Jimmy, seeing it, and knowing where that bull rider's mistake was and that now it's time to go is of the utmost importance. You got to know what the bull rider's supposed to be doing for you to be in your position right.
Reading the play sounds like for a bullfighter is something similar, right, to a pickup man or a hazer. Like reading the play, seeing it as it's coming before it gets here.
Right.
And averting disaster, right?
These guys, like Rob was one of them that I would always, there's one thing I took note of all those years I was in the barrel and stuff on cowboy protection, Kendra. Rob also knew, even in freestyle, he knew when to slow down and let the bull have confidence and pick him up and let him feel him, right? And I would see these young guys that could fly around and they'd go, "How'd I do?" And I said, "You sucked. Watch Smets of those guys." "What do you mean?" "Well, you blew through the gap. You're at the other side of the fence. The guy's getting his ass hooked off, or you spin back around and lay on top of the guy, right? And they both get hooked." These are old school things that would drive me nuts. Where Smetsy, he'd walk in there if he needed to slow down and stutter, right? Stutter a step, pick the bull up. Same thing with turning bulls back. They don't have to turn bulls back anymore.
Yeah, they don't do that at all anymore.
No, they don't have to, but back in the day, even Tommy Joe would have to get down there, and I could turn every bull back every time. I didn't save cowboys, but I could damn sure turn a bull back and get out of there by letting them feel my old soggy hat. You know, it's just the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, Cotton back in the day with all those big Red Bulls that he had, I'd step in there and get low and they'd turn back and buck, and it was good,
The Hookins weren't without a price tag. And I know you broke your neck 3 times. I want to say 92, 96, and 06, maybe. The last one was career ending, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you remember about like 92 and 96, those days? And was there ever a doubt that you were going to be able to keep going? And how hard was it to come back from a broken? Did you have surgery after each one to fuse?
So not in 92, they fused C4, 5, and 6, which is the ones that run your arms and legs. But, I mean, of course, the doctor, they tell you you're not going to do the game's over. You're not playing anymore. It's like, well, you don't pay my bills, and this is what I do to pay my bills. And
But they
at
don't
that,
just say you're not going to play anymore, the game's over. They say, do this again and take it the wrong way, and you're going to be what, in a wheelchair or something?
yeah, in a wheelchair
Or dead.
or dead, you
Yeah.
know. And so I went back, and of course, at that point in time in my life, 92, I just met Carla. We were just starting to see each other. If Carla would have been she's a beautiful, smart lady, but she probably should have been just one little bit hair smarter, because it would have been real easy for her to say, I don't need any of this mess. I came home with a broken neck from Monroe, Louisiana, back to New Mexico. And for a year, till January of the next year, I don't work. I can't work. Um, and, but I called Bob Watt on the phone, and I asked Bob Watt, can I come to Fort Worth? And Bob Watt goes, it's your rodeo, isn't it? And I said, well, yes, sir. And he goes, can you do the job? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, that's all I got to hear. Bob Watt was really good to me there. And so brought me back to Fort Worth. And then I ended up winning third in the world in 93, and came back and won my fifth world title in 94. And then, going through there was still a whole lot of stuff that, though the wheels were staying on real good in the arena, the wheels were falling off outside the arena from the mid 80s on. And, because we get to call it rodeo, but what we don't realize it, or we realize it, but what happens is you're going from party to party to party to party, from one town celebration to another town celebration to another town's. And if you aren't focused on the right things, it's easy to get off track, especially if you have a little bit of bad luck. It's easy to smile and wave when you're winning, but what about when I'm not winning? What about when I've got my butt kicked, and it's not just at one rodeo, but 3 or 4 in a row, and all my buddies are over there at the beer stand or wherever they may be, and we get pulled, and we get pulled in the wrong direction, and the devil, he comes to seek, kill, and destroy. And we all right here, the three of us on this, have seen him seek, kill, and destroy plenty in this business. I hate, I'm not trying to bring anything down, but that's the cold hard facts of being on the road, and
Yeah, you were known, and it's no secret that anybody's been around. You were known to be a wild one, and I
yep,
was gonna, and you did a lot of kamikaze stuff in and out of the arena, a lot of.
yes, sir.
But I will say, because I was going to say this, Carla put a chain on you. Actually, God did it.
Well,
Actually,
and that's where I was heading, is to getting saved in '98, when I bent my knee and asked God into my life, and it made a big difference. But the big joke around the house is the BC days, the before Carla days, and the after Carla days, because there's no doubt about it. I mean, I proposed. We were talking, her and I. So September 11th is my birthday. September 11th in 1992, I went and made the trip with Carla. Carla worked with the Exceptional Rodeo program. They were at Pendleton. So I went up to Pendleton. It's September by then. I'm getting around pretty good. And we go up there anyway. We're in the Letterbuck room on September 11th, and I proposed to Carla on my birthday. I took a knee in the Letterbuck room and asked Carla if she'd be my wife. And, the first thing, because of the smiles right there, but, everybody goes, well, how'd that work for you? Well, 33 years later, she's still here, so I guess it worked pretty damn good, and she's been my rock,
Well,
she,
and
she's been there
incidentally, they got married.
at the
Bob
Reno
Tallman
Rodeo.
was involved at what year at Reno?
Reno Rodeo, 1993. Bob Tallman was father for the day. Rowdy Berry was my best man, and Rowdy and I fought bulls in our tuxedos that night. They brought Carl and I in a wagon, and brought us in a little buggy, and introduced us right before the bull ride, and then put Carla back in the buggy, and she went out, and then Rowdy and I fought bulls in our tuxedo in between performing. That was back when there was a Saturday afternoon and a Saturday night perf at Reno, and we got married in between perks over at John Esquaga's Nugget.
I would love to talk. We've talked about some of the pioneer type people, the likes of Cotton Rosser. Harry Vold loved the bullfights. And I would love for you to talk about some of those notorious crooked nose. Was it purple people eater?
Crooked nose one. Well, purple people eater was the dad. Then they named 141 purple people eater also, like purple people eater 2. But the first one was 45, and he was a great big bramer, weighed 1800, huh, Tommy Joe? He was a great big bramer.
I remember him at Odessa when he was done almost killing me in the barrel. Like he was past his prime.
Yeah. And I mean, he was just a great big In fact, he took him to Odessa. They took him to Fort Smith. They took him Tulsa. He only took him to about El Paso. He only took him to about a half dozen rodeos because he was afraid of him jumping out. Bless you. And so, yes, and Crooked Nose, I was blessed to be able to have fought Crooked Nose a few times. I fought him the very first time we ever fought him at Pueblo at the state fair. Him and 141 and B47, and Harry had that whole group of cabs right then, and they were probably 3-year-olds and hadn't been off the ranch. And so me and Bobby Romer, we worked them there. And then, of all the bulls in the bullfighting business, so Crooked Nose loved the game.
Well, he also just, I mean, his name, but his look, like he was on a lot of posters for a lot of reasons.
He was. A lot of posters, and that, that head being a little twisted and that one great big old horn. And, but when you stop and think about it, that bull had to have close to 200 trips on him. And he never bayed up. He always came. And the other thing about him was he would run you over, and he's going to hook you as he's going over you, but he would always run by you 10, 15 feet and whirl around and throw that head up and be like, okay, I got more. You want to play? He'd give a guy a chance to get up. He didn't just maul guys. I mean, if he hooked them, there are certain times where he hooked a guy and the guy was out in front of him. That I'm not saying that he missed the second shot at him, but when it was a time where he ran over guys and ran on over them, he always ran on by him about 10 or 15 feet, and then he would whirl around and it'd be like, okay, I got more. You want to play? And the bull just loved the game.
Well, I remember Crooked Nose. I was in the barrel. It was at Odessa. I'm not going to say the bullfighter, but he was gutless. And he comes running up to the barrel, and Harry had told me before I went in, he goes, kid, this is where it matters. You're either tough or you're not. And I was scared.
Yeah.
I was legitimately scared. I knew how to work the barrel, but I was scared. And so I'm not going to mention the bullfighter because it doesn't do any good. But he comes running up, and he pukes in my barrel, and then he nods for the bull. Well, Crooked Nose comes out, throws his head up, and he was so flashy. Right, he just looked good, and he put the mental shamami on the best guys. Right, right at this kid, and he wasn't even a kid. This guy, and he's done. So he comes right to the barrel, and I'm like, fine, bring it on. And I walk the barrel. He hits the barrel pretty hard, and then I think I've told this story, Kendra, but he takes out one horn and he starts tinking the ribs of each side of the barrel, and I hear it just barely. I'm talking. This is how smart he was. Tink, tink, tink. Pretty soon I realized by the way the barrel's moving, that bullfighter, he's gone. And this is swear to God truth. He takes his one horn and he spins the open end of the barrel that I'm in.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Drops his head
and sticks that big right horn in there.
And looks me right in the eye. I mean, that's what I'm saying. When he says he loved it, he looked at me, he's like, I know you're there. It's going to be all right. Flip the barrel around. And I remember Harry going, he gave you a break.
Yeah.
He didn't come down in there. But again, this bull, like his eyes, right? It wasn't like he was just mad. He knew the game.
Yeah.
And that's what made you respect him and made those guys piss down their legs when they turned him out, frankly.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say on that, A lot of good bullfighters today. ABBI, BFO, like the little Mexicans, boys. And again, this isn't we walked barefooted in stickers to school, but you turn out a pin of bulls like we saw at Odessa that Rob got in front of, these big bad bulls, that if you didn't stand there till you about were hooked and threw a fake, you're done.
Yeah.
There wasn't no taking a picture and doing a backflip, because most of these guys, God bless all their hearts, and I don't want to sound like the old guy.
There's some good athletes out there, but they haven't seen anything
They
compared to
won't
what
even
we
get in
played
front of
with.
those bulls, and they won't today. They don't want to, because they will get hooked. That's just
Yeah.
the truth.
Yep.
They might do more than piss down their leg, Tommy Joe, or
I may have done more in my day. There were times when I was plenty scared. Well,
You know, and the best thing that
family-
happened was with Miles. You know, we would go and especially at Harry's, we'd go to the video, get the video, go to the room, watch those videos, and where everybody made monsters out of those bulls, it was because somebody was making a mistake. You got to find where the mistake is, and you know, we spent lots of hours in front of that video machine.
So tell us some of your good memories of Carla and the girls. Like, talk about your family a little bit.
Well, like I said, Carla, you know, 33 years, it doesn't get any better. I've got two girls in Oregon, Josie and Sammy Joe, that are from Sherry, from my first marriage. So I was married almost 10 years to Sherry Christensen from Christensen Brothers Rodeo Company. Her dad was Henry and her uncle was Bobby, CB Rodeos. Josie has a restaurant up in Eugene, Oregon. Sammy and her partner have a plumbing business right there in Lorain, and they're doing really good. Sammy's got two little boys, Colton and Jesse, and they're doing great. Our oldest, Corey, lives in Rankin, Texas, and is married to Cody Owens. And Tommy Owens used to fight bulls from out there in Rankin, Texas, and Tommy Owens is one of the most respected men a person could ever want to meet. Put on the AJRAs for years and all that. And in fact, today is the anniversary. It's been a year since Mr. Tommy passed away. And so my grandson Carter over there is going to be 13 or be 14 Halloween. You when you opened up the show with Halloween, I was chuckling because Carter's birthday, he'll be 14, getting ready to become a freshman in high school. Plays football, plays the guitar, ropes calves, been shoot dogging. You know, he's all in on this rodeo stuff. So, but they don't let him come visit Grandpa to say, hey, come on, let him go to the bullfighting school with me. So they just kind of shake their heads.
Probably not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, probably not.
Golf club.
Yeah, and he can play with golf clubs too.
You know, like, I don't know if everybody is aware of this. All three of us are obviously have great respect for the history of rodeo, but for those who are not already aware, Rob currently is the president of the Rodeo Historical Society at the National Rodeo Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. And we're having Rodeo Weekend is coming up November 7th and 8th, and along with the inductions there. And
my vice president and the vice president is Kendra Santos.
proud to be your right hand woman.
Yeah.
But the thing is that experience is a lot more than people really realize, and I think it's been really cool to see you in a whole new role as you know.
It's been a lot of fun to be up there.
But you're always pushing for what's right, and you've always done that, and it's cool to see, you know, in every role. I've seen you in a lot of different roles in this life, and you do always push for what's right. And the respect for the history, which I share, and so does Tommy Joe, is a really cool thing. And on that note, I think you know, so many of our epic video clips now of like some of the all-time great bull riders, it's Lane Frost, Tuff Hedeman hugging Rob Smets first after, you know, at the end of a winning, you know, momentous ride or whatever. Talk about the bull riders in the era when you fought bulls. I mean, because we were having a discussion the other day about, you know, that was a there was an era there of bull riders that was out of this world.
Well, I was blessed when I first got my card. Donnie was still going, Ricky Boland, Joe Wimberly, Art Ray, Wasey Cathy. So as I was coming in, there was still a star-studded outfit of bull riders right there. And then you got into, Charlie Sampson, Ted Noose, um, Lane Tough, Cody Lambert, Ty, that whole group, Jim Sharp. In fact, I made sure, in 2006, when I got inducted in the PRCA Hall of Fame, I wasn't asked. I said, over the years, I've been asked who was the greatest bull rider I've ever seen. And I'm going to tell you today that the greatest bull rider I have ever seen sits behind me and is getting inducted with me is Jim Sharp. Now, before you pick up the cell phone and start calling the short, squatty guy in Mesquite, Texas, I said, don't get me wrong. Jim Sharp's the greatest bull rider I've ever seen, but let me tell you one other thing. Do not bet against Donnie Gay because he will take you to the bank because he's going to pull it tighter, try harder. There's a reason he has 8 gold buckles because he's all game. I said the reason the man behind me doesn't have more gold buckles is there were days that he should have won the rodeo, that he won 3rd and 4th because he was in such control that people went, oh, that bull didn't have his day. No, that bull had his day. He just didn't move Jim Sharp.
Yeah, I remember I said that, Kendra. When you look at the Charlie Sampsons compared to the riding styles, Razor, he didn't move.
Right.
And they didn't mark the bulls like they should have over and over and over and over again.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
He wasn't even like over impressed with it. It was just, I will never get over in 1988 when he goes 10 for 10 and I step out there to interview him and I'm like, hey, talk to me. And he goes, what do you want to talk about? Like 10 for 10 meant nothing to him. It was like, yeah, what's the big deal?
And then you got a guy down the road in South over here in Texas too, goes 10 for Norman Curry.
Oh yeah, Norman.
Yeah.
Storm and Norman, right? And just you don't even hear of him anymore. I mean, our sport has had so many talented guys, and without a doubt, Wasey Cathy, 14 national finals. But did you know that the guy from District 5 High School Rodeo in California made 14 NFRs and won the world? And his 14 NFRs were in a row. That would be Teddy Noose.
Yes. And I remember the first time I saw him was at the Oakdale, a high school or junior rodeo in Oakdale. Yep. And his hat was something to marvel. It was like a little short brim. Anyway,
him and Jeff Lewis.
That's awesome.
Him and Jeff Lewis both rode by. I tell people, I say, I remember that Ted Noose qualified for the high school finals and the team roping as well. Him and Jeff Lewis. And back then, Ted Noose team rope better than he rode bulls.
Oh my God. Okay, this is we're talking about a lot of history here, naming a lot of names: Peth, Voss, Anderson, Hare, Baumgartner, Smets. Now here come the Dusty Technists, the Cody Websters, Nate Justice, these different guys. How do you feel about comparing eras in the bullfighting?
It's tough because the game has changed a whole bunch with the way they do it, and especially with now that they've got the triangle. Like even when we were in the PBR and we had 3 guys working, we worked the left side, we worked the right side, we sat one out.
Yep. We
didn't work 3 guys all at once. I am not a fan of the triangle. I don't like it. Dusty Tuckness.
The bulls were different back then too, Rob. There's a lot of them bulls. If you had 3 guys standing there, they would have ran off.
Yep. Or they'd have come to somebody.
Or
yeah.
they'd have come through somebody. I mean, the game has changed. I don't know that it's fair. Now, we'll let you finish. I'll let you finish.
Well, and I was going to say, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, Nate Justice is a hand, Tuckness is a hand, Cody's a hand. Those guys fight bulls. But if you gave me 2 partners to pick, 3 partners to pick back in our heydays, I'll take Joe, Jimmy, or Miles, and be willing to match whatever pair they want to put us against.
Now, did you wear
Don't you feel like
uniform?
it's something like Dean Oliver or Cody Ole? If you put either one in the other one's era, they would have found a way to win, don't you think?
I agree with that, and that's the thing. And I mean, like I said, Tuckness is a great athlete, and Webster, he steps in the middle of things and gets in the middle of things too. Nate Justice, there's some good hands out there, but there's a whole lot better. There's some more. There's a boy out there in Oregon right now that should get the national finals this year, and his name's Logan Blaisdell. And that Logan Blaisdell can fight bulls with anybody. And he's getting ready to work the Columbia River Circuit Finals with his best friend Eric Swint. So two young guys, they both happen to come to Miles Hare and Rob Smets bullfighting school, but they paid their dues. They've been going, and Logan's been working a whole bunch, and I would like to see Logan. He sure should be in that final group of guys on the vote off.
So
Do people ever come to a school and there's simply not a good enough athlete to have a chance? Is that?
And it does happen. I mean, especially at those schools. I tell guys, you know what? It's the best money that you can spend to find out if this sport is for you, because I can do it in as controlled an atmosphere as we can make it. Because Miles and I are both of the idea of we're gonna go to Cross Duns. We're gonna start with the calves. Everybody step around a cow. We'll see, now obviously those guys that have been fighting bulls 6, 7, 8 years, we don't start them on a calf. It's for some of those guys that have never played, they've never had the feeling of something running at them like that. Let's start here. Let's get the fundamental. Here's the fake. Move your feet over here. Go here. Square up, and then we'll get you to the heifers. And there's some guys that come to our schools and they don't ever get to the bullpen. But and when it's all over, you find out a whole bunch. Like you can have 10, 15 guys there the first day, and at the end of the day, if you've got 5 of them that still want to fight bulls, you're pretty blessed, because they're like, oh, well, I need to stretch a little more. I mean, they look for reasons to say this or that, but it's because this doesn't pound. But when you sit and watch the PBR, and you watch Cody Webster, and you watch Frank Newsom, and you watch all of those guys slide through there, and it looks pretty darn easy that, oh, I want to fight bulls. But but then when you get there in that little boxed off pen and everything starts happening, this thing just isn't pounding the same way that it was pounding before, But like I said, it's as controlled an atmosphere and as good a place to try and teach them as you can have.
Well, you got to have a heart and you got to have testicles. You need all three.
Yep.
Some you don't have all of that.
And God gives heart. That's it.
Yeah. I got a question. Do you remember, because I'm pretty sure when you went to from baggies to shorts?
Yep. I was the first one to wear the jersey.
That's what I thought.
I was the first one to wear the jersey in 2000 at the 2000 PBR finals.
That's what I thought. That's what I remembered because I was there.
And I let everybody else go out of the locker room. And then I pulled out my CarQuest ASE jersey and pulled on the shorts and trotted out there. And they're all like, what the heck? And I said, it's going to be the new look, guys. And they went, what are you talking about? And then everybody started getting after me saying that I was breaking tradition. And I said, I'm not breaking tradition. I'm setting a whole new standard, because this is not rodeo. I am not a rodeo clown. I'm a bullfighter. I'm a bodyguard. We're changing the look. And look now. I mean, it's everywhere.
There's a business on selling jerseys to bullfighters now.
Yep.
Okay, next question I've got for you, because Kendra brought it up, saves. Okay, we know there's a lot of infamous saves that you've been a part of. Some of them Kendra can bring up, but I'm going to ask you, can you remember, now think about this, because this could have been in, who knows, a thankless place. Walk me through your most memorable save. And it may be one of the high profile ones. We all know the high profile ones.
Well, I mean, obviously the highest profile one was the one with Tough that year and the Wrangler Bullfights, and everybody came over the fence. And I mean, we didn't get it took forever, you know. More so than the big saves. I guess the things I've remembered more than that were the great rides I got to see.
Oh,
You know, Michael Gaffney riding Little Young. And so if I was to pick a top bull of all time, I would say Little Yellow Jacket.
me too.
Huh?
Absolutely.
And I loved getting to watch Little Yellow Jacket the next trip after he had gotten ridden because that bull came back with a vengeance. He
And then when he
bucked.
threw the guy off, how
Yep.
he would throw his head up
Yep.
and make a lap, right? Like
Yep.
every time.
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
so cool.
That bull was so cool. Little Yellow Jacket, you know. I mean, and Del Hall's one of there's a Harry Vold 777s. I've been blessed. I mean, 5 of the 7 times that Lane rode Red Rock, I was a bullfighter. So I mean, I've got to see some awful fast, fantastic stuff. The night Jim Sharp rode 10 for 10 at the national finals, I was fighting bulls. You know, so it's yeah, you know, and just been blessed, you know. And the best part of the job was it took me from Hawaii to Florida, Alaska to Brazil, almost every state in the United States. But I was blessed to play a game that I loved with all my heart. Carla and I were watching a movie downstairs a little bit ago, something about the potato race, and it's a race in Australia. And the guys get $2,000 payoff, and the ladies only got 200, and they start arguing over, you know, trying to get the girls equal money. And then the one girl's sister, she looks at her and goes, "I'm not running for the money." And I can honestly say this: I didn't fight bulls. I didn't fight bulls for the money. I fought bulls because I love the game. I mean, if the good Lord was to tell me right here on this today, whisper in my ear and say, "Rob, we're taking you out of here tomorrow, and I'm even going to give you a choice. What do you want to do? How you want to go? Well, then go get me a set of cleats and let's go right out to the pen. And if we're going to end it, let's end it right there." And I mean that without blinking an eye, with all my heart wide open. That's take me that way. I love that game.
You have bailed in beyond your bullfighting career, right? Have you not been out like with a microphone in your hand or something? You had to
Yeah,
bail in
yeah,
on something?
I get hollered at a little bit for that, but yeah, I have.
Oh,
I feel more comfortable. Like I do some announcing and color commentary at about 10, 11 rodeos. I went out to Gilroy, California for the CCPRA rodeo of been the last 3 years, the rodeo of the year for California. And I'm out there on the barrel, and you know, I'll usually try to get something to get him to pop his head up and get to say, I'm retired. And then of course you know how to make one little step to get him to come hit it one time, and you know, so it's fun. It keeps my heart pounding.
Well, I think that's a pretty cool way to wrap this up. You know, you're a mentor, and not only to bullfighters, but to the credibility which we stand for on this show, the credibility of the cowboy, the credibility of a good human. And we try pretty hard, don't we, Kendra, to get good humans on this show. And I just shout out to what you're doing for the youth, for preaching the gospel, um, for being an example that we all walk a hard road sometimes, but it's where you end.
Amen.
And
I'm living proof that he's merciful and forgiving because I tried him pretty darn hard. You know, so why before you check all the way out though, I'd like one opportunity. So I do a Facebook message 6:30 Central Time on the Rob Smets pages page. It's just one that all you have to do is like and follow. It's not a friend request or anything. And I share some thoughts of what the Father puts on my heart in the mornings, and ask anybody that wants to come and take a look at it to please drop by.
Kendra, final answer. Final question, final anything?
So, my final thing is just to say thank you, because you, since the day I met you, which I don't even remember a day I didn't know you, but you have been a stand-up. I don't even care if it was in some of the wild and woolly times. You were always a good human. And so that is like, I don't know, a true, like, I don't ever have to wonder, well, there's some people, that are acquaintances. There's some people it's like, well, what would they do in that situation? Like, I always know what you will do. And it has come up. It's interesting over all the decades and different situations we found ourselves in. But it's like, what I always know without even having to call and ask you is that you will do the right thing.
Thank
Nobody's watching. If it's popular, if you're going to lose money doing, it doesn't matter. You will do that. And I appreciate that so much.
you.
So
Thank you, Kendra.
so grateful to be a friend forever. So anyway, thanks.
I'm grateful for the friendships too. Tom and Joe, thanks for having me on here and just the opportunity to give a shout out to everybody and spend an hour with buddies. Don't get no better.
Amen. Well, we're going to close the show with you delivering a couple sentences of advice to be successful in this business, whether it's bullfighting or whatever.
Okay, so in any event in this sport, two things. You can never be in too good a shape. You cannot get there. Okay? And if you're a roughie, it doesn't matter whether when you make a 90-point ride or whether you get slammed right there, you still hit this ground and it hurts. We're bouncing and it's hard on body parts, And then the other thing is you say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am, till the cows come home. You cannot beat being too polite, and that in order to try and get some of these sponsors on your clothing and for some outside support, they want somebody that's going to be representing them right. And so do what's right because it's right, and that comes from Deuteronomy 6:18. You can pull it up there.
Well, everybody, this has been episode 79 of No Spin Rodeo. Thank you for the California's own Kamikaze Kid, Mr. Rob Smets, and of course, the wonderful and beautiful Kendra Santos. Until we meet again, you guys be safe out there.